After a 17-run explosion against the Hyannis Harbor Hawks at McKeon Park on Saturday night, the Wareham Gatemen are now firmly the #1 team in the Cape League and the #1 team in the West Division. But to keep their 3-game winning streak alive this evening, they're going to have to go against the top team in the East Division, the Yarmouth-Dennis Red Sox. Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Gatemen Pregame Show alongside Cameron Stuart and Henrique DaMour. I'm JD Raucci. A gigantic win last night for the Gatemen over the Harbor Hawks. Third time that they had seen the Harbor Hawks in the last 5 games. And how about these statistics? 12 guys come to the plate for the Gatemen, 12 individual guys. 11 of them reach base, 10 of them drive in a run, 5 of them with multiple RBIs, and 2 home runs. An absolute offensive explosion last night for Wareham.
Yeah, it was just an absolute demolition for the Gatemen last night. And they had struggled, obviously, the last 2 times they had played Hyannis, the 9-1 loss, where they had only 1 run on the 12 hits on Tuesday, and then a bit of an offensive struggle here Friday night. They barely came away with that 4-3 victory, but just opened everything up yesterday. That top of the 3rd inning was really obviously where they blew it open. A 9-run inning after falling behind 1-0, so some good resolve there. Sent 13 guys to the plate, and it started with your number 9 man, Isaac Collins, who hasn't gotten much time this year. They put him in a new position to insert him in the lineup last night, and he gets that whole inning started. Has 2 hits from either side of the plate in the inning, so he was obviously the catalyst. He was our player of the game, and they kept things rolling. They only scored once. That 3rd inning was the only time they scored for the first 5 innings, and then from the 6th inning on, they got runs in each of those frames. So they were able to keep it going, keep that line moving, and they just didn't let up. 4 pitchers used in that 3rd inning by the Harbor Hawks. 2 of them didn't even get outs, so they were just really pushing through that Hyannis bullpen. They got the starter out early, and they just kept pushing throughout the whole game. We saw another position player come on to pitch for the Harbor Hawks against the Gatemen, so that's got to show you you're doing something right.
And the offense was certainly incredible. 17 runs. The offense has to be pretty darn good. And the pitching was pretty okay, I'd say, in this game. They allowed just the 4 runs, but it was really the amount of hits that Hyannis had, again, out-hitting the Gatemen, despite the Gatemen having 17 runs. It was a bit of a struggle for the pitching staff, Henrique.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an interesting day for them because, like you said, you give up 4 runs, you're going to win a lot of ball games on a day-to-day basis. But when you score 17 runs and you still get out-hit, that is a little bit of a cause for concern. We've seen back-to-back nights that Hyannis left double-digit men on base. So I think, if anything, maybe you have to talk about Hyannis' offense and how they haven't been productive with runners in scoring position, but you do have to give the pitching staff some credit. Once they got men on base, they weren't distracted. They focused on the matchup in front of them, and they retired some really good hitters. I mean, Pedro Pages wasn't in the lineup, but Matthew Barefoot, he had a pretty good day. Todd Lott, who we saw, I mean, he started to heat up. He had 3 RBIs on a 3-for-3 day, 3-for-4 day maybe, but he started to heat up. But the fact of the matter is the Gatemen kept the rest of the lineup contained, and you give up 4 runs, you're going to be okay. Credit the defense as well for not collapsing. It's just something we saw Hyannis defense do. On top of throwing a lot of balls, the defense didn't back them up. So the Gatemen on the pitching front and the defense front. Defense was very good. Pitching was just serviceable.
It was a roller coaster night for the Gatemen pitching staff, and our Mariotas got to check up and check in with pitching coach Jim Lawlor before today's matchup with Yarmouth-Dennis.
Thanks, guys. So, Coach Lawlor, obviously the offense was a main highlight yesterday, but what did the pitchers do to keep us in the game?
Well, the bottom line is they made some critical pitches. Even though we threw too many and we walked too many, they made some big pitches at the right time, and it saved us. But there's no doubt it was a hitter's night for us. They got the win for us.
And what are they going to have to do tonight to not get so many walks or so many hits?
Well, new pitchers. No, but they're all working on stuff. They're all trying to fine-tune down here. And I tell them when they're in the Cape, if we don't experiment now, they're never going to experiment. So I got guys going out and doing things to try to fix a delivery right during the game. And if it doesn't work, we go to something else. But this whole thing of they're trying to get better. And if we don't do anything different, we don't get better.
Could you give an example of what one pitcher's trying to work on?
Well, let's say Proctor, who started tonight, did a pretty good job. When he first got in, he let his back shoulder dip too deep, and his arm was late, and he come up, and he couldn't get consistent. So he's trying to keep his back shoulder up more to make his hand more on time.
Great. And so the teams are ever changing in the Cape. Guys are leaving and coming. How do you try to scout teams or scout hitters? Well,
the bottom line, and Don and the other assistants do a great job online, do what we can, but really the bottom line, we watch them take BP and see where they're at, and really just look at who the hot guys at the plate are, who's the base stealers, and pass that on to your pitcher. Say, hey, number 2's a base stealer. Pay attention when he gets on. Or the 3-hole hitter's really hot right now. Let's try to pitch around that guy, get the next guy out. But with the pitch limit I have, they can't do much of that or they're going to be out of the game. It's next.
And lastly, it's very warm out. almost 100 degrees. Does that affect the pitchers on the mound?
It will. If they have quick innings, they're fine. But if they have a 25 or 30 pitch inning, it's going to get them today. And they got to watch out now for the excessive sweat. They got to get the ice water in their hands and get things, quit sweating. In between innings, that'll be something they're going to have to do.
Are we going to have to rely on the bullpen more today?
Probably. I mean, I'm trying to use 3 a day anyway. So if we use 4, and we got the off day coming in 2 days, so I've got guys in groups, and I just try to be sure I don't use too many in one game.
Coach, thanks so much. Guys, back to you.
Thank you to Marion, Coach Lawlor, as always. And guys, we've talked about how the pitching staff has been a little bit inconsistent of late, but really they've been doing it against some of the best teams in the Cape Cod Baseball League this past week. It's been a really tough schedule, but the Gatemen have come out looking pretty good on the other side of it.
Yeah, in the last 6 games, like you mentioned, the Gatemen have played YD twice, and another matchup with YD coming up in just a couple hours here. 3 times against Hyannis and once against Chatham. All those teams are top 1 or top 2 in their divisions, maybe top 3 if you count the log jam that is in the East Division. But the point is, 3 very good teams in the East in Chatham, Harwich, and YD. And the Gatemen have split 1-1 with YD, looking to take 2 out of 3 on the week in a couple hours, like I said, and 2 out of 3 against Hyannis and 1 against Chatham. The Gatemen are 3-0 against Chatham this year. And I think the Gatemen, they play to their competition. Against Orleans, a team that is very up and down. I still have yet to completely diagnose them. They have a lot of talent on that lineup, but the Gatemen are 1-2 against them. It took an extra inning walk-off effort against Brewster. Brewster has a -44 run differential. They're not playing great baseball right now. But against Bourne, who's a very good team, that's a tough game, but the Gatemen always come out swinging against teams that are good. They step up, like you said. You got to credit the pitching staff for going against some of these really good bats. These guys are going to be, first 5-round draft prospects in a lot of these teams. But the Gatemen pitching staff has come to play, and against really good pitchers, the bats have come alive.
Yeah, it's been a great look at this past week for the Gatemen offense and for really the entire Gatemen team in general. And on the offensive side, it's really been guys, we've seen a more consistent effort. At the start of the season, it was the Andrew Vaughn and Bryson Stott show, but as of late, new guys have really started to step up for Wareham.
Yeah, and I think of those 2 guys at the top of the lineup that Ian Becerra and I were talking about in the pregame show yesterday. Guys who didn't start the year with the team, guys like Jeremy Idens and Sahid Valenzuela. Idens really looked flabbergasted at the plate in the beginning of the week, but has really turned it around and become the bona fide leadoff hitter that the Gatemen expected, and he's set back in that role perfectly. Sahid Valenzuela, great number 2 guy to get on base. And I was impressed last night by Paven Parks, a guy who comes in with a lot of hype into this. Feels like he's going to fill those shoes to an extent of Andrew Vaughn, and comes in. He's put some great swings on the ball. He's hit some hard outs, though, in his first couple games, and last night came through with the home run, his first with the team, and he just looks very comfortable at the plate. So I expect him to be a real crucial part going forward. Lael Lockhart's putting together some better at-bats, starting to get on base a little more in that 5-hole. So things are looking up for this Gatemen offense for sure, and those new guys really propel it.
And real quick, before we take off from the Hyannis game too much, we got to talk about that Brian Packard home run. I mean, we talked about, how it was the Andrew Vaughn and Bryson Stott show, them providing the power. It is really good to see, like you said, Lockhart starting to put a charge in a couple of balls, Paven Parks. But Brian Packard hit, I think you and I were talking about on the broadcast, I don't think either of us have seen a baseball hit that hard in person. It cleared the tree line, 40-foot trees in the fence, behind the fences at McKeon Park. Over those, I mean, that must have gone 400 feet at least.
The offense has really started to get it going. Brian Packard, Lael Lockhart, a couple of other guys have really started to impress for the Gatemen, but it's going to be a tough matchup today against the YD Red Sox, one of the better teams in the Cape Cod Baseball League. And on the other side of this quick break here on the Gatemen pregame show, we'll have the starting pitching matchup. A couple of really good pitchers coming up today between Cade Cavalli and Tommy Henry for YD. We'll be right back on the Gatemen Baseball Network.
The Sacred Cod Tavern at Chatham Bars Inn, Resort and Spa, a quintessential New England dining experience for lunch or dinner, a proud member of leading hotels of the world.
Welcome back to the Gatemen pregame show, getting you ready for the Gatemen and the YD Red Sox here from Spillane Field. Coming up at 5:30, should be a good starting pitching matchup. 2 guys we saw in the doubleheader on Sunday, although they did not face off with each other. We saw Cade Cavalli in game number 1 for the Gatemen, and Tommy Henry in game number 2 for the YD Red Sox. And Cavalli looked pretty good in the first outing of the season, or his first start of the season against YD on Sunday, Cam.
Yeah, his second appearance, first start, as you mentioned. He did get a little wild on the year. He struck out 6, but also walked 6. He walked 3 in that game and got out of a bases-loaded jam to end his day, and the Gatemen kind of built off that momentum, and took that 8-0 lead that became the 10-4 victory. So Cavalli's got nasty stuff, but he's just been a little bit wild this year. Of course, he's a guy who really is starting to transition into being a pitcher this summer. This is his proving ground, not only for the Gatemen, but for the Oklahoma Sooners next year, where they want him in the weekend rotation, possibly as their Friday night starter. So this really is a proving ground for him. It's almost like a practice season, if you will, for him to really get comfortable with all his pitches. And we saw him playing catch out here when we came in today, just trying to test out all those pitches in some live toss. So it's going to be interesting to see today, see how much he relies on the fastball. He hasn't done that too much in his 2 appearances so far, but a big guy could probably come down with a pretty hard, firm fastball. So that's what I'm looking for today from him, but obviously a lot of breaking pitches, and let's hope he can keep it in the strike zone.
So it's the right-hander Cavalli for the Wareham Gatemen, and on the other side, it's the left-hander Tommy Henry out of Michigan, and he looked absolutely stellar in Game 2 in his start.
Yeah, if you ask me, he was the reason that the YD Red Sox were able to come back in that game and beat Wareham 4-3 to salvage the doubleheader. He's got good stuff. He's not a power pitcher. He had 79 strikeouts in 81 innings this year at Michigan, a 3.0 ERA, 20 appearances as a sophomore, all Big Ten second team. So he's got a really good track record, but his only appearance was that Wareham appearance. Now, wildly different conditions today. That game against YD, crummy weather, low 60s, cloudy, just really kind of a nasty day. Today, it is unbelievably hot. It's 91 degrees right now. Should go down into the low 80s by the time first pitch rolls around. But he hasn't pitched in a week, but he dominated the Gatemen the last time out. I'm really excited to see what Henry can bring. And we've talked about how the Gatemen need to get out early. We saw Tommy Henry in a relief appearance in that 4-3 loss to YD. So this is his first start of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how he transitions, if he can stifle the Gatemen bats early. Because if he can do that, then his team will be in a good position to win. When the Gatemen have gotten out early, they've won with a lot of ease.
Tommy Henry going to look to replicate that performance today. One of the guys he'll face off with is Lael Lockhart Jr., who reached base 5 times yesterday in the win over Hyannis. And because of that, he got a chance to talk with our Mary Orders before today's game.
Thanks, guys. So, Lyle, you reached base 5 times yesterday. You went 2 for 2. You had 2 walks, and you were hit by a pitch. What was working for you behind the plate yesterday?
Oh, really just trying to see the ball, and that's kind of been my approach the last few games, and really starting to see it better and kind of hitting pitches that I want to hit rather than chasing stuff out of the zone.
And what pitches were you seeing from them yesterday?
There were a lot of off-speed down in the zone. They were trying to work the counts, and then they started leaving fastballs up, and guys started hammering the ball all around the park all day yesterday.
So we're almost halfway through the regular season. Do you feel like the team's more cohesive now than before?
Yeah, I'd say so. The guys are getting to know each other, and it's just going a whole lot smoother rather than everybody coming in. You have guys coming and going, but now everybody's kind of here, and it's kind of going really well.
And what has been your favorite part of the team so far, or just being here on the game?
All the guys seem to like each other, and that definitely helps.
And lastly, what are you expecting out of today's game, or what are you hoping for?
Hoping for a win, that's for sure, and guys hit the ball like we did yesterday. Pitchers dominate the zone, and that's all you can really ask for.
Lyle, thanks so much. After the break, we'll have more from the Gatemen Pregame Show.
Gatemen Baseball is officially sponsored by Robertson's GMC, the truck professionals. Located on Cranberry Highway in Wareham, Robertson's GMC. We are professional grade. Generations for life. Wrapping things up here on the Gatemen Pregame Show alongside Cam Stuart and Henrique DaMour. I'm JD Raucci, getting you ready for the Wareham Gatemen and the Yarmouth-Dennis Red Sox coming up with a 5:30 first pitch on this warm Sunday afternoon on the Cape. It's going to be an interesting game. Top 2 teams in their divisions. Wareham number 1 in the West, YD number 1 in the East. Cam, what do the Gatemen have to do tonight to come up with another win and extend the winning streak?
Well, I'm always so intrigued to watch Cade Cavalli pitch because he has so much potential on the mound. So for me today, I want him to get ahead of hitters more often than he did in his start against YD last week. That got him into some trouble. It got him to those 3 walks. I think it's getting that fastball over for strikes to get ahead in the count because today we've got a tough sun going. We're going to have some shadows creeping in the first couple innings over home plate. That nasty breaking stuff's going to look a lot more deceptive with those shadows too. So if you're able to get ahead of hitters, those things become a lot tougher to lay off, and I think that strikeout stuff is going to come from Cavalli if he gets ahead with the fastball. So seems pretty simple, seems pretty cavalier, but I think he just needs to get ahead of the hitters today, and those strikeouts will come a lot more often than the walks will.
So Cam wants to see some good pitching out of the right-hander Cavalli, the starter today for the Gatemen. Henrique, what do the Gatemen need to do, in your opinion, to pick up this win?
I think they need to replicate what they did in the second half of that Hyannis win, because even though they did put up the 9 spot in the third inning, they were helped out by absolutely abysmal defense from Hyannis. Their pitchers weren't throwing strikes. Tommy Henry is going to throw strikes. He's not a power guy, but he's going to try to induce weak contact. So someone needs to find a way to get Maybe not even a long ball, but the power bat. Because when Ryan Packard, Pavin Parks, and Lael Lockhart have produced the power bat, we talked about how the Gatemen have been missing the big hit sometimes, right? The runners left on base. It's just been station-to-station baseball. Sometimes that's been good enough for the Gatemen, but oftentimes we've seen that be their demise or make games a lot closer than they've needed to be. This YD Red Sox team, they are no joke. They're not going to give up free base runners. Tommy Henry has only walked one guy this year, and he had a low walk rate at Michigan as well. So the power, guys are going to get on base. Zahid Valenzuela, has really good at-bats. Brian Packard, really good at-bats. Isaac Collins, if he finds himself in a pinch hit appearance today, he's not in the starting lineup, but the point is, a lot of these guys have put together good at-bats. They will get on base, but we need more than station-to-station baseball to beat YD.
Power bats and starting pitching, always crucial parts of any baseball game, and it should be a good one coming up from Spillane Field at 5:30 between the YD Red Sox and the Wareham Gatemen. That'll do it for us here on the Gatemen Pregame Show. For Cam Stuart and for Henrique DaMour, I'm JD Raucci saying so long and enjoy the game coming up on the Gatemen Baseball Network.